and it's their intrinsic
nature. This food basically robs.
Sound feasible, sound like. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Now I want to get into this whole thing with Milwaukee and the riots and everything like that. And it's funny how so many people still fall for the same stuff. Now we have already proven with the whole Ferguson riots and everything like that there were people who were being paid to riot.
We have our validated customers, and every case yesterday was a different case.
But local store owners believe people from out of town are responsible for the recent heightened violence and looting.
You're going to start to see more, the news media is going to start banging on something. Could be Ukraine, could be, we don't know. That's how psychological warfare works. They talk about this, and this is happening over here. It's called a distraction. So number one is there's going to be an emphasis upon international events. The news media is going to pound it. The second thing is you're going to start to see a group or a person guilty of racism or something along those lines. We're going to start pounding on that. They want your attention over here. The third thing you're going to start to see is people being arrested for domestic terrorism. The fourth thing you're going to see, and this is what I got to talk to the ladies about. It's what I call ancient hates, ancient madness, ancient revenge. When these things start to happen, people are going to start rioting.
And you have to use common sense and ask yourself, today, right now, if you and 50 friends went downtown and started to destroy stuff, how fast would the cops be there to stop you? Now, you got to understand that it's people who are being allowed to riot. Some people are paid to do what they are doing. They destroy shit. And what happens is no cops come. All that happens is the camera crew comes out there and points the camera at these people who are allowed to destroy what they are destroying. Never. If you and your 50 friends go out and start burning down stuff and destroying stuff, they will send in a bunch of cops. How is it that we can see a bunch of peaceful protesters, people who are sitting down and protesting, spray, mace, pepper spray? People who are marching peacefully are met with, hundreds of cops. But here you have cases. In each case, after these shootings, you have people who riot. Where's the cops? Where are the people to stop them and put out these fires? Where are the people who shoot us down in the street, who pull us over, who do all kinds of things to us? Where are these cops to stop these looters and rioters? These people who are doing things that goes against the real movement. And the funny part is you have so many people who are quick to identify the entire movement with the actions of a small group of people who choose to riot and choose to destroy property. It does not reflect everybody. As I said before, I think the whole Black Lives Matter is a setup. It's a scam. And when you have people representing this organization or representing these people who have people doing the wrong thing, blocking traffic and doing all kinds of stuff, it tells you something is fishy. These people are following bullshit. They are following something that is not going to help us progress or help us resolve the problem, which is what many people want. So when you have a person do an interview and talk about the whole Black Lives Matter and talk about this movement, they can be very deceptive in what they are saying. And a lot of people are not realizing they are spinning the whole thing and turning it around on black people, where we go from being the victim to being scrutinized, to being, basically crucified and criticized about everything that has ever happened in the black community when we are talking about one specific thing. So when you have people who come on TV or stand in front of a camera who are unprepared to answer questions, they look stupid, therefore making the whole movement, making everybody who is standing up and saying Black Lives Matter, who understand the movement, the real movement, what it should be about. It makes everything look bad, and it makes us go from being the victims to being people who are just, doing the wrong things and who are wrong and should be held accountable for other things. So watch this interview to understand what I'm talking about. Take a look.
I'm offended by the language of uprising applied to people who are breaking into other black people's stores and looting them. This is a lack of values, and people who are destroying private property, destroying cop cars, in an uprising against what exactly? Against the black police chief, against a mostly minority police force, against the black mayor, against the black president, against the black attorney general, against against a city council that is 9 of 15 are black and all 15 are elected Democrats. What is the uprising against? What is it seeking to achieve? I still don't see what exactly the riots are seeking to achieve. Bottom line is, this is all. It all could be boiled down to just act like a mensch. Act like a human being. Honestly, it's not useful to riot, it's not useful to break things, it's not useful to throw rocks at people. And the idea that we're supposed to sort of correlate your level of outrage.
I'm going to stick to the 30 seconds on this.
Yeah, the last
Charles?
sentence. The last sentence. Yeah. The idea that we're supposed to correlate your level of outrage with a certain level of justification. In other words, the more outraged you are and the more angry you are, the more justified you must be, is absolute nonsense.
How can you argue that racism is not a driving factor in income inequality?
Because it has nothing to do with race and everything to do with culture. And when you have a culture that doesn't, you know what? Explain to me. You explain to me why black kids aren't graduating high school. Explain that one to me. Explain to me why black kids are shooting each other in rates significantly higher than whites are shooting each other. Explain to me why 13% of the population is responsible for 50% of the murder. Explain to me why the number of black kids in prison, not for innocent reasons, not for walking down the street and getting pulled into a prison, is so high.
Mass disenfranchisement through a criminal justice system that disproportionately incarcerates black citizens.
Explain, if it has nothing to do with culture, explain to me why the single motherhood rate in the black community jumped from 20% to 70% in the same course of time that the civil rights movement has made such tremendous strides. Is America more racist now than it was in 1960? And if it is, please explain to me how that happened.
Now, to a lot of people who watch that video, they say, well, this guy's right. You guys are shooting each other. You guys kill each other. You guys doing this. You babies out of wedlock, this and that. This is not the issue. The issue is cops shooting unarmed men. It has nothing to do about black on black crime. It has nothing to do with that. So they are allowed to come and bring in that whole thing and try to use it to justify unarmed black men being killed. How does people who choose to kill other black people, how does that affect, or how does that somehow justify cops killing people, cops beating people up? Just because some girl or woman had a baby, by a guy who she don't know who the father is, or the daddy's in prison, how does that justify cops killing unarmed black men, unarmed people? And this is the thing. People are so sick that they run to that and say, well, these people deserve to be killed because some black guy killed another black guy last week. Why didn't y'all march on that? What does that have to do with the other thing? Now, of course, you're going to say, well, y'all didn't march when the other black guy killed the other black guy. That's a totally separate incident. It's a totally separate thing. And correct, yes, we didn't march. Black Lives Matter didn't march on that, but that's that movement, and that's something they had to deal with. That in no way, goes against the whole movement or what everybody is saying about the cops shooting everybody. Now, I can answer that gentleman's entire line of questioning. Everything he had to say can be answered if I just play Elizabeth Warren's speech. A lot of you have seen me play that video and a lot of my previous videos. If I just play that, because she breaks it down and explains it, but I'm not going to go to that. If you want to check out the speech, go and listen to what she said, and that answers his questions. And it's confusing, and it's a setup that, they bring this line of questioning into a subject that it has no place. It doesn't belong in this whole line of questioning about cops killing people. If you want to get technical with the entire thing, you have to simply go back and look at history. And this is what people refuse to do, because history just reveals the truth of everything.
African American men and women began to close the wage gap with white workers, giving millions of black families real hope that they could build economic security. But then, Republican trickle-down economic theory arrived. Just as this country was taking the first steps toward economic justice, the Republicans pushed a theory that meant helping the richest people and the most powerful corporations get richer and more powerful. For African Americans, who were so far behind earlier in the 20th century, this means that since the 1980s, they have been hit particularly hard. In January of just this year, African American unemployment was 10.3%, more than twice the rate of white unemployment. And after beginning to make progress during the civil rights era to close the wealth gap between white families and black families, in the 1980s, the wealth gap exploded, so that from 1984 to 2009, the wealth gap between white families and black families tripled.
So, as I said before, one, when you have poverty, crime is inescapable, and they know this. So, you had the U.S. government go out and spend $1.7 billion on, military. A whole bunch of military shit that, on wars and stuff that has nothing to do with the American people, seriously. When $1.3 billion would have completely wiped out poverty in America. So the whole thing is the government understands that there is poverty and that crime is being driven by poverty. Yet, when has the war on poverty happened? Think about that. When has the war against poor people on the street? If you ever go through Skid Row, I'm going to go through there and I'm going to do a video one of these days because I drove through there a couple weeks ago. It's unbelievable. You will not get it until you drive through there and see so many people out there on the street. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. Why isn't anybody doing something about Skid Row? And the Skid Row's all over. So when is the war going to happen on that? And the problem is you have so many black people who are in poverty and you have white people who are in poverty too. But they seem to want to keep talking about what happens in a black community and not what happens in a white community when there is crime going on in the white community. Yes, the numbers that he's talking about, it's the same fabricated lie. When you go to the FBI website and look at the numbers are, of course, favor white people because they are the majority of the population. But that has nothing to do with cops killing black people. Has nothing to do with it. I pointed this out in the previous video. You have plenty of video footage where white people are shooting at cops, where white people are being arrested. But he's not pointing none of this stuff out. They only go straight to black people. They want to stay on the whole thing about the black community because this is what the news media shows all the time. You got to watch Dateline, as I said, to see all the stories of whites killing whites. But the media chooses to focus on what happens in the black community and uses that to justify cops killing innocent people. Now, I keep seeing stuff pop up all over the internet, all over Facebook, is we shouldn't allow them to destroy stuff and this shouldn't be tolerated. So again, when it's black people rioting and destroying stuff because they are tired of being killed, it cannot be tolerated. But when we have white kids who riot and destroy shit because of a sports win or because of pumpkins, it's tolerated. They're just rowdy. It's okay. It's fine. There's no news conference. There's no big issue about it. This is something that we got to look at. And a lot of people forget. This is the problem with most of you. You forget shit that happened recently. Now you remember from the Baltimore riots what happened then. What did that mayor say? She went up there and she said, we allow those who wish to destroy to destroy.
Because while we tried to make sure that they were protected from the cars and the other things that were going on, we also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well. And we worked very hard to keep that balance and to put ourselves in the best position to de-escalate, and that's what you saw. And
this is how they get you, because see, they put a black woman up there, it's a black mayor who can say that and get away with it, and it's not looked at as funny. Why would the cops allow people to destroy property? Unless they want them to, so they can point the cameras and say, look at these niggas, look at what they doing. Everything is misdirection, it's perception, it's to make us look like something that we are not. And then they're trying to make a group of people who choose to destroy speak for the entire black race. This is just who they are. They are violent. They are destructive. When it's clearly a group of people who chose to do something that we all disagree against. It's people who don't want to see past this scam This is obviously a setup. Everything that's going on, it's no mistake that everything that they have been putting out from the movies to the press is all geared around race. It's all geared around racism and things of that nature. Even from all the way back from NWA, that movie coming out, fuck the police. You think it's a coincidence that a time when the cops are killing people that they put out a movie about NWA? This is all purposely done, and people choose not to look at what's right in front of their face and see what's going on. It's a setup. It's divide and conquer. Everything that's going on. Cops being acquitted of obvious murder. Cops beating out people. It's continuous. It goes all the way back to when Obama was first elected. 2008, all the way, we had everything that happened from, Oscar Grant, Trayvon Martin, everything that happened since then, everything that's been going on, it's a setup. Now you have the Nat Turner movie getting ready to come out, the whole Nat Turner insurrection. This is all a part of an agenda. Plain and simple. I just seen a whole news report on that about how the guy who played in the movie supposedly had raped some white woman and they let him off and she killed herself. All of this is going to spark up hate. It's going to fuel people. This is all by design. You need to pay attention to what's going on. Some people can, some people don't, because they are letting this fuel the hate that they already have inside, against black people or white people. People who hate black people are going to be fueled by this. People who hate white people are going to be fueled by this. And they are being driven by all of this bullshit. And it's a trap. And it's a shame that people don't want to see through it. They rather just keep talking about this and that. And, it's so obvious that what's going on is being done against the people to separate us. So now everything is like so touchy now with race. Anything any person does that touches on racism is a big deal. The whole thing with Ellen riding on Usain Bolt's back. I mean, come on. It's Ellen. Now, me personally, if I was one of her people, I would have advised against that because, right now it's all touchy with the whole race thing. I would have been like, well, maybe that's not a good idea, Ellen. But it's Ellen. I'm not saying that she is just immune to, anything that's racism or racist, anything like that. If she did something that was outright racist, it would be justified, people jumping on her back. But come on, it's not that serious. And this is going to be the problem. And, it's a shame. This is going to be the issues that we face until we wake up and realize who is really behind this whole thing. Understand the job of the media and the press is to have a story. They got to keep stories going. They're going to keep adding fuel to the flames. Anything that borders on the line of racism or anything that has to do with race, they're going to touch on it. They're going to do stories about it. Movies are going to come out. All kinds of scripts is going to get green lighted if it has to do with race. It's just that simple. And yeah, Morgan Freeman, the whole thing when he had the interview when he said, the best thing to do is to stop talking about it. Don't call me black. I won't call you white. You know me by my name. I know you by your name. It's just common sense. And a lot of people got offended by what he said about, I don't want no Black History Month. Is there a White History Month? We don't never say, Michael Phelps, he was the first white man to get this many medals. No, come on. It's stuff that has to stop in order for us to move forward. And when you give energy to this stuff, and I know I'm really giving energy to it now by bringing it up and talking about it, but we have to talk about it. This has to be put into truth and not into, arguments, into deception where it's at right now. Because anything you say to the contrary of anything, that is controversial that a white person does or that borders on a line of racism, another white person is going to jump in there and say, but y'all killing each other. Or, but what about all of the poor black women in the neighborhoods with babies and they keep having babies? And it has nothing to do with the actual topic. It's just what we use to argue over is becoming ridiculous, and we're not looking at the real enemy that's right in front of us. We are being faced right now with the worst two candidates, and I can say in my history of living, I'm 34, and people believe that Trump is the worst thing that's going to ever happen to this country if he becomes president. But I challenge you to look closely at Hillary Clinton, which is why they give you Donald Trump, because one, it will be hard to sell Hillary Clinton if everything was revealed about her. So we got to give you the worst, most horrible candidate to go against to get people to overwhelmingly accept Hillary Clinton as the next president, because Donald Trump is just that bad, when in reality, Hillary may be worse, and it's spooky. And I don't know where America is going to be headed or what's going on. But when you start digging into that woman and stuff she's done, I mean, it's tough. It's tough. And yeah, Trump ain't no picnic. Hillary ain't no picnic. We all wanted Bernie, for real. But yeah, when you get down to it, it don't matter. They already picked who the president is. It's all bullshit. We have been warned countless times, and we choose to ignore it, about what's going on in this country. Now, I want to play a video that I want you to watch and pay attention to, and understand that this video was long ago, and that everything this man said has come to pass. The question you should be asking yourself is, how did he know, and what the hell is going on? Take a look.
A part of that plan, of course, is to induce the gradual surrender of American sovereignty, piece by piece and step by step, to various international organizations, of which the United Nations is the outstanding but far from the only example. Now, here are the aims for the United States. 1, greatly expanded government spending for every conceivable means of getting rid of ever larger sums of American money as wastefully as possible. 2, higher and then much higher taxes. 3, an increasingly unbalanced budget despite the higher taxes. 4, wild inflation of our currency. 5, government controls of prices, wages, and materials, supposedly to combat inflation. 6, greatly increased socialistic controls over every operation of our economy and every activity of our daily lives. This is to be accompanied, naturally and automatically, by a correspondingly huge increase in the size of our bureaucracy and in both the cost and reach of our domestic government. 7, far more centralization of power in Washington and the practical elimination of our state lines. There is a many-faceted drive at work to have our state lines eventually mean no more within the nation than our county lines do now within the states. 8, the steady advance of federal aid to and control over our educational system, leading to complete federalization of our public education. 9, a constant hammering into the American consciousness of the horror of modern warfare, the beauties and the absolute necessity of peace. Peace always on communist terms, of course. And 10, the consequent willingness of the American people to allow the steps of appeasement by our government, which amount to a piecemeal surrender of the rest of the free world and of the United States itself. So brush the insider's dust out of your eyes, my friends, and the communist soap suds out of your brain, and ask yourselves in all honesty, what on earth is wrong with the United States simply minding its own business? Or with having its foreign policy function primarily for the safety and benefit of the American people. Which is exactly what we had done for the first 140 years of our existence as a nation, to the incredible advantage of ourselves and everybody else. Everybody, that is, except a numerically small clique of power-lusting conspirators who had somehow inflicted themselves on a gullible world. While we turn to a very brief summarization of what we hope the John Birch Society will help and even sometimes lead the American people to accomplish during the next 15 years. One, our first and most important specific undertaking should be to restore the complete independence of the United States. This includes our resolution to get us out of the United Nations and get the United Nations out of the United States. Two, we must once again make our money freely redeemable in gold at some realistic price. And we must take all practicable legislative steps to prevent a recurrence of the enormous thievery and other subversive crimes that have been perpetrated on the American people through a contrived inflation by every president from Franklin Roosevelt through Richard Nixon. Three, we should reduce the number of government bureaus, of government civilian employees, and the whole quantity of government by at least 50%. And we should achieve at least this much reduction in proper fashion through gradually convincing a majority of the American people of the wisdom of such a course. Four, we should withdraw all American troops from every spot on earth that is not American soil, except when and where such troops may be required as decided by Congress to protect American lives and property from criminal vandalism. Five, we should get government out of the areas and functions and activities where government does not belong. Again, all steps to this end should be taken gradually, but nevertheless just as rapidly as enough of the American people can be persuaded to support such progress. Any such achievement will require a truly massive educational force, but that's exactly what we hope to build during the next 15 years. We could go ahead for at least 100 numbered items, but the John Birch Society will undoubtedly be working on more than that many specific projects, which will be laid out in its bulletins before another 180 months will have rolled around. And all of these projects will fit into the general pattern indicated by the 5 major objectives listed above. So let's really wind up this marathon monologue with one final thought. None of us can guarantee anything about what the future will bring. Your speaker knows what a job we have before us to rid our country of the scourge of communism within the next few years, and then to go ahead on our constructive program so well that 15 years from now we shall already be entering an era of far less government, of a much sounder sense of responsibility, and, with God's help, of a better world. But I sincerely believe that it can be done, and this much I know. If every man and woman in this audience should leave here tonight feeling in his or her own mind and heart that it can and must be done, then it surely will be. And so, all of you patriots of good character, good conscience, and noble ideals, whom we can reach with the filmed version of this speech in 1,000 other audiences, it is with a great deal of confidence and energizing will to win that we invite you to join us in our epic undertaking. While to all of you great, wonderful friends in this present audience, I certainly extend my very deep thanks indeed for so much patience and attention. Thank you and good night.
Now, we have been warned by countless people. Many times through history, people has explained to us that we would go through exactly what we have went through. Many presidents Many prominent people have warned us, tried to tell us that, hey, something is wrong. There are people in power who are trying to take control, and they have done it already. It has been done. So this is divide and conquer. A lot of you see it. Some of you choose not to see it because you are filled with hate for whatever reason. But we need to understand what's really taking place. And are we going to sit around and keep arguing about stuff that really don't matter? Or are we going to wake up and choose to see that every time the news says something about race, says something about any kind of terrorist attack in America, that this is all a part of their agenda? I agree with the people who are saying, well, we need to stop killing each other. Black people need to stop having so many babies. I agree with all that kind of stuff, but that has nothing to do with what's really going on. It's a reason behind all this stuff. And as I said before, when you put people in poverty, crime is inescapable. It's just that simple. The same things that happen in a black community happens in a white community. The light is just being only shed on the black community for a reason. Divide and conquer. Why isn't the government spending the $1.3 billion to completely eradicate poverty in America, but instead wants to spend $1.7 billion on stuff that is not really going to help us at all? It's just that simple. As the gentleman said in the video, we need to just mind our business. America needs to mind its business. You need to understand that this is not America, and the people who is controlling this are people from another country who is using America to fulfill their agenda. I know that's hard for you to accept. You can be the most patriotic person in America. I've served this country. I've been in war. So you can't tell me. I understand something is wrong. Y'all need to wake up and pay attention, because what's coming, I guarantee you, is not going to be good for any of us. You can sit there and believe it's going to be good for just white people, but you're wrong. You're sorely mistaken. They showed you they don't care. They do not care. A lot of white people lost their homes in 2008. A lot of white people died in 9/11. A lot of white people died Pearl Harbor. Pay attention to what's going on. This is a trap. It's a setup. I need to wake up and stop arguing about stupid stuff that has to do with race. It's stupid. It's dumb shit. Now, I didn't want this to be a long video. I just want to touch on that because I see a lot of people talking about that specific subject, what's going on in Milwaukee and everything like that with the riots and all. And it's the same stuff. Come on. It's not something different. We've seen this before. It's the same stuff over and over. They want our guns. The stuff is going to keep happening. Fake terror attacks, false flags, what have you. The question is, when are people going to wake up and see it for what it really is and act accordingly? And it seems like something major is going to have to happen where people, it's finally going to wake up, and by then it's going to be too late. So what we need to do is stop. Stop marching. Stop talking about the shit. Stop adding fuel to it. The only thing we need to be talking about and saying when we talk about these subjects is it's a trap. It's all a part of their agenda. When the movies come out, when people start talking about the whole Nat Turner movie, when they start talking about everything else that has to do with this racial separation, what you need to be said instead of adding fuel to it is it's bullshit, it's a trap, it's a part of their agenda to divide and conquer. Not that, well, black people need to stop shooting each other, or, well, white people got white privilege. We need to stop that. All we are doing is adding to our own downfall and helping them to, complete and fulfill their agenda. That's all we're doing. I know people are upset, especially black people. We're upset about what's going on. We are the ones being, killed in the street, and them showing bodies in the street, kids being shot, and all kinds of stuff that's going on. And, it's funny that they don't look at the whole situation and say, why hasn't the president, why hasn't Obama, black man, half black, half white, what have you, done something to stop this? Why hasn't Obama passed some kind of law? I mean, it's so much on his watch as an African-American president, because that's what they're going to call him. That's what they call him. On his watch, why hasn't he done something at a time where we really needed him the most as a people? Anybody else, if it was the other way around, and y'all know this, if it was the other way around and it was black people killing a bunch of white people, black cops, something would have been done fast. And we all know this. As I said, if Africa was white, it wouldn't be a bunch of starving kids there. And that's not to put it in a racial category. It's for you to understand that things are done for a certain reason. There's an agenda behind it. And y'all need to understand that before y'all, say stuff and think things are a certain way when it's not. Now, I didn't do this video to try to, cause any kind of controversy, but just to get both sides to stop and think for a second. Something is not right. Something is wrong. Look at everything, all the way back to the speech, BET, that, what's his name? Jesse Williams, whatever his name is, gave. All the way back to then. And everything that happened after that. I mean, even before that, it just keep happening. The same old shit. It's a setup. It's obvious. And, we got to stop going back to the past and pulling out all this old shit and mixing it all in with stuff. It don't belong there. It's a trap. And as long as we continue to argue about the wrong thing, instead of focusing on this trap and who's really behind it and what's really going on, nothing is going to change. Because right now, they are saying it's working. It's working. Let's keep it going. The reason why it hasn't stopped is because we didn't stop it. Because we are fueling it and we are adding to it and we are doing exactly what they want us to do. Until we say it's a trap, it's a setup, it won't stop. Now, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch and really understand what's going on. It's a setup. It's a trap. You all know it. Anybody who wants to look deeper into this thing, I got videos on it. Look into it yourself and understand what's taking place. It's all a part of an agenda, and it's divide and conquer. That's all it is. So either you're going to be a person who wants to be fueled by it and you want to argue about it and, because you are racist or you got hate in your heart for an opposite race, or you're going to be a person who wants peace. And the majority of us want peace. And I believe even the people who have hate in their heart at some point want peace. We need to understand what's going on and that this is being set against us and it's a trap and we need to act accordingly. And to do that, you need to do some research and recognize what's taking place. Now, thank you guys again for watching. See you next video.